Speak to William Law, the editor of Arab Digest. Bill, welcome to the program. Great to see you. You know, the question that many people around the world are asking is how much death is acceptable to Israel's international backers. More than 28,000 Gazans so far have been killed. In Rafah, who knows how many tens of thousands will die, and suddenly the West is saying don't attack.
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it, Adnan? This war and the enormous casualties that the Palestinian people are enduring raise the question, how much longer will the West, and not just the West, the Arab states, particularly the Gulf states, how long will they continue to either actively support the Israeli campaign or, in the case of some of the Gulf states, quietly behind the scenes support Netanyahu and the Israeli actions in Gaza? I think that we're seeing some aid moving. This is a sign. It's a small sign, but as your reporter said, it's a beginning. Perhaps it's a political act, of course, but pressure is building on Netanyahu. We've seen countries like Canada, New Zealand, and Australia calling for an immediate ceasefire. Sadly, we're not hearing that here in the UK, either from our government or from the opposition Labour Party.
You're right to mention the failure of pan-Arab diplomacy, and many analysts have said the same thing, Bill, but it's of course the Americans who have the most leverage. Some Arab nations had considered possibly closing down some American bases. None of it has happened. Do you get the impression that Benjamin Netanyahu is even interested in any sort of negotiations? We've had Israeli media reporting that William Burns, the CIA director, has been secretly in Israel, and now actually more media reporting that he's there now to meet Benjamin Netanyahu. Apparently Benjamin Netanyahu has been telling his representatives, yeah, go to Cairo, talk, because the Americans want you there, but don't make any deals on my behalf.
Yeah, the degree to which Netanyahu and frankly, the fascist ministers that support him, Ben-gvir and Smotrich, are almost celebrating the dismissal of the American influence. Is quite interesting. And you're right that this ceasefire could happen tomorrow if the Americans had the political will and indeed the courage to do so. They're not going to, for a number of reasons. And I think that, the time has long passed for countries in the West and I come back again to the Gulf. I mean, you look at the United Arab Emirates, their ambassador has not been withdrawn. Bahrain, their ambassador has not been withdrawn. Mohammed bin Salman still very keen to have normalization with Israel. These countries, their leaders need to step up because it's clear that their people back the Palestinians 100%, but the leadership is absent and missing in action, as it is in the West.
Bill, what about the issue of the two-state solution? Is it something that Hamas is pushing in some kind of definitive form? Because clearly we understand what the Israeli War Cabinet feels about it, that as far as they're concerned, it would never happen. Is it just a distraction to even talk about it at this stage?
I don't think it's a distraction, Adnan. I think it's important to talk about a two-state solution. I think it's vanishingly small possibility that we will see it happen. But I do think that as the pressure builds on Netanyahu, and we hope that that pressure increases, then the two-state solution really is the only outcome that would give Israel what it needs, which is security, that would give the region what it needs, which is security, and which would give, indeed, the rest of the world what it needs, which is security. The road that Netanyahu is currently driving down will lead to more escalation, more insecurity, not just for the Israelis, not just for the region, but for the world. So I think that we need to keep that two-state solution as a possibility. We need to keep it alive. It needs to be a viable two-state solution. That's the big word, Adnan, viable. And I think that with the enormous suffering the Palestinians have experienced thus far and for decades and decades and decades, that I think there is an urgent need for political leadership, political will, political courage to say to Netanyahu, enough is enough. It's time to stand up to Netanyahu.
William, Bill, Law, we really appreciate the expertise. Thank you so much indeed. Please come back sometime. Take care.